Hey everyone, welcome to this video. In this video, you're going to learn how to create and run your first shell script in Linux. Now this will be the first video in our bash scripting series, and in this video we're just going to cover the basics of shell scripting. Now what is a shell script? A shell script is simply a computer program that is designed to be run on the shell, which is a command line interpreter. Now, in most modern Linux distributions, we use the bash shell. And just to confirm this, I'm going to run the command which, then I'm going to provide the environment variable called shell, like that, okay? So I'm going to hit enter, and what I get on the output is the full path to the shell that I'm working on. So in this case, I'm running the bash shell, all right? So in your case, this is what you might probably see, all right? In a system such as a Mac, you'll find the default shell is the Z shell, okay? Now, in shell scripting, a shell script is mostly used for automating repetitive tasks such as backing up files, monitoring system resources, managing user accounts, and so on and so forth. So writing a shell script makes your life easier by automating tedious and repetitive tasks, which will make your life a bit harder. Alright, now with that brief introduction out of the way, let's see how you can create a simple shell script. So I'm going to clear the screen. Now to simply create a shell script, you can use a text editor. So in my example, I'm going to use an editor called Nano, like that. Then I'm going to provide the name of my script. So I'm going to say, for example, my script. Then I'm going to provide the file extension, which is .sh. All right. So I'm going to hit enter, and this will open up this interface you can see. Okay. Now, to mark the beginning of a shell script, you're going to type the following. So you're going to start with a shebang header, like that. So you're going to start with a hash, then an exclamation mark, then followed by the full path of the shell you're using. So in this case, I'm using bash shell. So you're going to have hash exclamation mark, then followed by /bin/bash. All right. So this marks the beginning of your shell script. Okay. Now I'm simply going to type a simple message to the terminal. So I'm going to use the echo command. So echo simply prints output to the standard out or to the screen. So I'm going to start with an open double quotation mark, and I'm going to type a simple message, welcome to bash scripting, and I'm going to close the quotation mark. Okay, so this shell script simply displays the message, welcome to bash scripting. So I'm going to save this. So since I'm using Nano, I'm going to press Ctrl-O on the keyboard. Okay, then I'm going to hit enter. Then to exit the file, I'll press Ctrl-X. All right. So when I use the ls command, you can see this is the name of the shell script that I've just created. Now, before we run this shell script, we need to make it executable. And to do so, I'm going to use the chmod command. Then I'm going to add the execute permission to the script. Then I'll provide the name of the script. All right. Then when I list the permissions, so you can see here the script has execute permissions. All right. Now let me clear the screen. Now to execute the shell, simply type a dot, then /, then provide the name of the script. So in this case, my script.sh. And if your script is on a different path, you need to provide the full path to the shell script. So now I'm going to hit enter. And as you can see on the screen, we have the message, welcome to bash scripting. All right. So that's a simple way of displaying a message on the screen. Now let's go back to the shell script and try something more ambitious. Okay. Now, in most cases, you'll be using variables to store data. Okay. And also make your life easier. Okay. So variables might work quite in a similar way when compared to other programming languages. Okay, so for example, I want to print something to do with my name. So I'm going to say name is equals to, for example, James. All right. Then here, in addition to the first string, I'm going to say echo your instructor will be. Then to reference the variable, I'm going to use the $ symbol like that, then provide the name of the variable. Okay. Then I'm going to close the double quotation mark like that. All right. So this string here is going to print your instructor will be, then the $ name. So here, this variable will be replaced by the value of the variable, in this case, James. Okay. And also be cautious when you're declaring variables. Ensure that you do not have any spaces between the variable name and the equal sign. All right, so I'm going to save this, then exit. Now let me run my shell script once more. So I'm going to hit enter. All right, so now in this case, we have two messages on the screen. So we have our first one here, welcome to Bash scripting, and your instructor will be James. So as you can see, the variable name has been replaced by its value, which is James. All right, now let me clear the screen. Now you can also use a variable to display system metrics. For example, you can use a variable to display the date. So for example, when you run the date command on the system, it gives you the current date and time. Okay. You can also display something like host name like that. Hit enter. Okay. So in our case, we have Ubuntu. Now we can display this information in the shell script. Okay. So now let's go back to our shell script. So here we can have something like, so here I'm going to specify my date. So I'm going to have a variable name called my date, my underscore date. Then I'm going to say is equals to $. All right. Then here I'm going to type the command date. All right. Now I'm going to format this date in year, month, and date. So here I'm going to specify plus, then I'm going to open the double quotation mark. Then I'm going to specify the year. So it will start displaying the year, then followed by the month and followed by the date. All right. Then here I'm going to terminate with a double quotation mark and close the parentheses. All right. Then I can also specify another command. So for example, system host name. So this is a variable that stores the host name. So system host name. All right. And this I'm going to give it $, then open the parentheses. I'm going to specify the hostname command here like that. Then I'm going to close the parentheses. Okay, so here I'm going to display echo. Then I'm going to say the date today is, then I'm going to reference the variable $, my underscore date. Okay. And echo the system host name is $, system host name. So you can name these variables however you want, but ensure that you give them a descriptive name so that you can make your work much easier. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to save this changes and exit. Now, once again, I'm going to run my script. Okay, so now you can see here we have additional information. So we can see the date today is, so this is the year, we are in 2024. We are in the month of July at the time of making this video, and the date today is 20th. All right, so here you can also see the system host name is Ubuntu. All right, so we have created a simple shell script, and we have seen how to declare variables and how to print messages on the screen. All right, so let me clear the screen. Okay, so now let's see how you can create a simple script to add a user to your Linux system. All right, so I'm just gonna give it a name. So I'm going to say a nano add user .sh, like that. So I'm gonna hit enter. All right, so as usual, we're going to start the script with a shebang header. So bin bash, like that. All right, so the first thing we are going to do is we're going to check whether you are the root user, because usually the task of adding users is usually reserved for the root user or the sudo user. So here I'm going to say check if you are a root user. All right, so now here I'm going to use the if statement. All right, so I'm going to say if, then I'm going to open the square brackets like that. Now the root user has the UID of 0, so I'm going to say $, open the parentheses, if the IUD, like that, if the IUD is equal to 0, like that. Okay, so here semicolon, then so if the UID of the user adding the user to the system is equals to 0, which is the root user, then we are going to use the read statement. So here I'm going to use the read statement to prompt user input. Then I'm gonna say enter the username. Okay, so on your terminal you will receive this prompt, enter the username, and this will be stored in a variable called username. Okay, then also after prompting for the username, you'll be prompted for the password. So we're going to say read -s-p. So here enter the password. Okay, then this will be stored in a variable called password. All right, so once that is done, and once the user provides the username and the password, the next step, the script is going to look for the /etc/password file, which is the file that stores user information. So it's going to check whether the username provided exists. Okay, so this line here is going to check the /etc/password file to see whether the username exists. Okay, so here we'll save this, or we shall redirect this to dev_null. Okay, all right, so now if this user already exists, so here I'm going to use another if statement. So if the user exists, so here to check this we are going to use the exit code. So if the exit code is equal to 0, that means if the operation was successful in checking the user, then we are going to say here that the username already exists. Okay, so $username exists. Okay, so here for the egrep, so this checks for the username in this file, and if the command is successful and returns the output, so here we are checking the condition. So if this condition is true, then we're going to say the username already exists and the shell script is going to exit. So we say exit 1. So this is the first exit. Okay. Now else. So if the user does not exist, so here we are going now to create the user. So here we are going to declare another variable pass. Okay. And here we are going to use the per command to create an encrypted password. Okay. So here we are going to have per -e, then we're going to have print crypt. So we're going to use the crypt function for creating an encrypted password for the user. Then we have $sign here, argv, then square brackets. So here we have 0, then we have password. So here this is a comma. So we have password. And then we're going to close these parentheses like that. Okay. Then a single quote like that. Then here we have the variable password. Okay. So now what this command does, it creates an encrypted password for the user. All right. So here now we're going to have the command for adding the user. So in this case, it's going to be user add -m -p. Okay. Then here we are going to pass the pass variable that we have just declared. And also we are going to pass the username variable. So $username, like that. Okay. So now if this command for adding the user is successful, so once again we're going to check whether the exit status is 0, which means the command was successful. So if this is equal to 0, like that. Okay. So here now if this is true, and also now if this is true, then we are going to say echo the user has been added to the system, like that. Okay. Or now if this is not true, then you're going to say echo failed to add the user. Okay. So failed. So you have echo, then you're going to say failed to add the user. Okay. Then here we are going to terminate with a double quotation like that. All right. Okay. So now we are going to finish the else statement with fi. Okay. Now else, so if the user is not a root user, remember here we were checking to see whether the user is a root user. So if the user is not a root user, so here we are going to say echo only the root, and pseudo users can execute, or rather can add the user, can add a new user to the system, like that. And then we exit. So this will be our second exit, and I'm going to close the else statement. Okay, so here is our complete shell script for adding the user. Okay, so here we have this checks to see if the root is a root user. So if the user is a root user, then these steps are carried out or executed. Then this checks to see whether the user name provided exists in the etc password file. So if this command evaluates to true, then we get the echo on the screen that the username already exists. Else here the user is created with the username and the password. All right, and on the screen you get the message the user has been added to the system. All right, now if the user is not a root or a sudo user, you're going to see this prompt on your screen. Okay, so now let's save this and exit. So let me now make this file executable using the chmod command, add user. Okay, so this is our shell script. Okay, now if we try to run the shell script as is, so I'm going to run the shell script as the user Linux techie. Okay, so here we can see we have a few errors. Okay, so now let me go back on line 20 and line 24. So nano add user. Okay, so I forgot to add a double quotation like that. Okay, so now let me save the changes and exit. Now let me try to run the shell script once more. Okay, so you can see if I try to run the shell script as an ordinary user, I get this message: only the root and sudo users can add a new user to the system. Okay, now I'm going to use sudo here. So Linux Tech is a sudo user, and I'm going to run the script add user. Okay, so I'm going to provide the sudo user password. Okay, so I'm supposed to run the shell script adduser.sh. Okay, so now this time around you are prompted for the username. All right, so I'm going to create a new user. So I'm going to call the user Bobby. Okay, enter the password. So I'm going to provide a password for Bobby. All right, and you can see the user has been added to the system. And to confirm this, we can use the cat command and we can check the password, the etc password file for the user called Bobby. So this is the command for doing so. And as you can see, we now have a new user called Bobby. Now let us run this shell script once more and try to add a user that already exists in the system. So let's now see something like James. So I'm going to provide the password for James. And as you can see here, you can see the user James already exists and the script has exited. All right, so that's it for this lecture. We have introduced bash shell scripting, and we have walked you through some of the few shell scripts that you can create. We have seen how to create variables, how to define them, how to reference them, and also we have created a shell script for adding users to the system using various operations. For example, we have used the if statement. We have used the statement for reading user input, which is the read statement, and so on. All right, so that's about it for this lecture. See you in the next video.